I'm neo-citroned out, so I'm really dozy. I could go to sleep right now. If I fell over, I'm done. I'm gone. Yeah, Robitussin, that's it. I've been pounding that like hell.
Well, I hope you're a little more awake and alert, Rick Dhaliwal, Canucks Insider, one half of Donnie and Dolly, the team, weekdays on Czech Television from 10 to 12.
Lingering cough is pissing me off. Here's the thing about the cough. I get to work, and the cough starts. I go home, it stops. Nothing for the rest of the day. Like, it's almost like the radio gods. Like, I don't get it.
The talking irritates it. The talking irritates it. That's what's happening.
Oh, look at Dr. Blake Price comes through with his Harvard education.
My daughter's a doctor, right? So I've got some intel
hold on a
here.
second.
Yeah.
Your daughter's a doctor?
Yeah, well, med school. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Oh man, you didn't let her go into radio?
Shockingly, no, I did not.
Or TV or newspapers? Yeah.
Blake is surrounded by doctors and lawyers, and when they talk about him, they talk about just how unsuccessful he is.
They honestly do. I am demeaned for my lack of accomplishment and my lack of contribution to the world, really. I don't do much.
But, Rick, do you remember when him and his Harvard smart mouth were back on SportsCenter in the pre-internet days? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I worked with Price. He came in.
You were my mentor. If you're upset with the finished product here, Rick, you created this, all right? You were part of this.
I remember Price walked in right out of school, cocky, arrogant. I had to sit him down, slap his wrist. Listen, kid.
That was Gary Rabel, not you.
Hey, attitude makes or breaks more human beings than anything in the world. And Price's attitude when he got into radio, horrible.
Can you not lean out of frame? Just stay put, all right? Stop. Honestly. Aren't you in TV? Come on.
Oh, okay. Hey, and I still got a face for radio. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. We've got a lot of things to run through. What do you know on Demko?
Oh, boy. So he tweaked something at practice yesterday, right, guys? It's a setback. We can confirm that. You know what's funny? He was feeling good and recently felt the best he has felt in months. A couple of people I've talked to this morning are, not thinking it's serious, but it's way too early. You can talk to 400 people now, but it's as of now. It's way too early to make predictions, is this short-term or long-term. As of now, I think by Sunday night or Monday, we should find out in the next couple of days if it's short-term, long-term. So let's go through his injury situation. December 1st, groin. So he's been out 2.5 months. Minor procedure on his knee last summer. Hip issues in the past. I was told a few weeks ago they just want to get him 100% before they let him back in. And it was smart on the Canucks to do that. I think the groin's fine, but, they wanted everything. They just wanted a brand new 100% healthy Thatcher Demko. Now, let me throw this at you, both of you. If I was Rick Tocchet, I would push this summer for an NHL veteran backup. They cannot be in this position next year, guys, if Demko goes down where you got nothing but American Hockey League goaltenders to choose from. They are in this position because the previous regime was capped out. And remember Holtby? They signed Holtby, and after 1 year, they bought him out. They only had enough money to give Martin $750 on a 2-year deal. You want a backup in the NHL in the how about in the 1.5 to 2.5 million range? That's a good backup, right, Blake? And also one other angle for you guys to look at. If they do shut Demko down, if they do say he's out a little bit more, I wonder if these teams that have called on him in the past few weeks, I wonder if that's going to turn them off in trading for him. So there's a lot of things at play here when Thatcher Demko. Number one is his health. That's, I think, all people, the team, the player, and his agent, they just want to get him healthy. I think that's the number one thing, and everything else falls into place after that.
Do you know why so...
I was going to say the curious thing, Rick, would be if he gets back to full health in the next month, say. Yeah. Do they bother give him 3 to 5 starts, or do they just say, hey, forget it?
Forget it. Yeah, that's going to be the big question. Okay, so who have they shut down this year? Tanner Pearson. They've shut down McCabe. OEL. We don't know what's going on with his ankle or whatever, his injury. He went for X-rays yesterday. Hey, look, they're not going to make the playoffs, right? We know that. There's so many people in this city that want them to lose to go for Bedard. I mean, let's be honest. So there is no urgency to play him because the playoffs. You're in the playoffs, or get them healthy for the playoffs. There's none of that. So now the team can look back and say, look, let's get them all healthy, 100%, all of them for next year.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why silloffs Wednesday?
I've been trying to figure that out. I didn't like it, putting a kid in his debut against a Rangers team that is 7th in the NHL in scoring. Mm-hmm. And then the kid allows 4 goals on 11 shots. But what I loved about the kid is the second half of that game, he didn't give up. He fought, and he showed a lot of character in adversity. The Canucks could have pulled him after the 4th goal. The Canucks could have pulled him 11, 12 shots, and they could have said, hey, kid, get out of there before you allow 6, 7, 8, 9. They didn't do that. Mm-hmm. I love the fact the kid fought. He showed a lot of character. So, hey, look, this is it. Again, just like every other year in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, there's no playoffs coming up, so you might as well play the kids. Might as well play them.
Luke Schenn, are they going to continue dressing Luke Schenn? What's the latest on Luke Schenn?
Okay, earlier this week, it was reported that a Schenn trade was close. I was told Monday morning a Schenn trade is not close, and the Schenn would play that night against the Red Wings, and he did. General feeling is this. If the Canucks had an offer for Schenn, let's just say it's a 2nd or 3rd round offer, come on, guys, the deal would have been done by now. That's the general feeling. Things can change any second with Schenn, but the fact is there's no deal yet. Makes you wonder if the offers for him are 4th and 5th round picks. And would you take a late pick for a guy who's loved by the organization, wants to stay so badly, and his wife is due soon? There's a lot of factors when it comes to Schenn. This looks a lot like Tyler Mott to me last year. Remember, everybody wanted a 2nd round pick for Mott. He went for a 4th. At the last second of the deadline. This looks like a lot of Tyler Mott. Look, I think the general feeling out there is if the Canucks get a 2nd or 3rd rounder for him, you got to do it. Yeah. The fact they haven't moved him yet tells me they haven't got that offer yet. He's 33, he's a UFA, and here's another one for you guys. The Canucks are bleeding goals. The Canucks have given up 31 goals, I think, in their last 6 games. That's not a good look on any player, goalie, forward, or defense. So, you're a team that's trying to get Luke Schenn, but he's a part of a blue line that's given up, a lot of goals in the last week and a half. Like, they've been bleeding bad. So I don't know. Like, if the offers for Luke are in the 4 to 5 range, I could probably see why the Canucks haven't said yes. But
you're right. People have high hopes. People have high hopes for Mott. You're absolutely right. But this is a defenseman, not a winger, right? So you see clubs get thirsty, hungry, and desperate for defensemen. You don't see that for 4th line wingers,
Yeah, but hold it a second, Blake. This is a 3rd pair defenseman. It's not a top 4 defenseman. Yep. Mott was a bottom 6 forward. This guy, Schenn, and by the way, again, I keep hearing how much Rick Tocchet loves him. The organization loves him. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. He's a great character guy. But teams have to be like draft picks are like, as we know in the city. We gave the team gave a lot of 1st, 2nd round picks away. The draft picks are currency and they're very important. So teams are not just going to cough up draft picks, like they're out of style. The Canucks did it, and look at the cupboards are bare.
I think at this point of the game, you're quite right, Rick, that recent performance, and especially with him leaving that game last week at the Garden with an injury, if you're a buyer on Schenn, I think you're looking at it going, is he playing through something right now, and is that going to affect the asking price? Do you know what kind of money in term the Canucks have talked to Schenn about, or Schenn's agent about?
Oh, are you talking about an extension?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't have anything to share on that. I just know that when Ben Hankinson, the agent, came on our show, he said he's talked to the Canucks about all scenarios, including a trade, re-signing, and even possibly coming back to Vancouver on July 1st. Luke spends his summers in Kelowna, loves this team, didn't want to leave in the first place. didn't want to leave Vancouver in the first place. And if I can, when he signed in Tampa Bay, the agent waited and waited and waited for the Canucks, and he just got tired of waiting and had to sign in Tampa Bay. He never wanted to leave Vancouver in the first. He just loves this city, the province, and he wants to make it home, and he wants to stay. So there's a lot of factors when it comes to Schenn.
Talked about. I was going to segue to the next topic if we could here, Matt. We talked about the prospects cupboard yesterday.
Yep,
we did, and wondered aloud how many they've made judgments on that they'd be willing to move on, because the judgment was, hey, either in the case of a guy like Aidan McDonough, we're not going to be able to sign him, or in the case of a guy like Nils Höglander or Jack Rathbone, we just don't think he's going to be in our plans. Where do you think they're at with those peripheral prospects? Not the new guys, because the Lekaramakis are probably sticking around.
Big time.
But what about these peripheral older guys, Benning era prospects?
Okay, and I saw your tweet about that, Blake, yesterday. So let me get into Nils Hglander first. What I've been told about him as of now is that teams may be calling on him, but the Canucks are not shopping him, and he's not asked for a trade. I checked into that this morning. He's a 22-year-old kid. Canucks like him, but he needs to get better in Abbotsford. That's why he's down there, let's be honest. 2 weeks ago, the Canucks called up Podkolzin, DiGiuseppe, and Amon. I mean, he's human. He's kind of probably thinking at that time, hold it, guys. Hey, what about me? You called up three guys. What about me? I think he's in the same boat as Rathbone, just looking for an opportunity with the Canucks. And also he's an RFA. I found out this morning, no contract talks yet for Hglander. But do keep in mind, I have to say this, and I tweeted this when he was sent to the minors, 2 more NHL games, and Höglander's going to require waivers to go to Abbotsford. So I do believe in my heart that's a factor as well.
So they might just wait him out until training camp, right? Because they just don't want to have to make that judgment, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and if you bring him up and if you play him 2 games, and then, you got to bring him up. Look, Blake, when it comes to Höglander, you got to bring him up when you think he's 100%, when you're 1,000% convinced he's an NHL player, and you don't have to send him back down.
Correct.
Bottom line.
Correct.
Training camp gives you that. Gives you 3 weeks to look at it in preseason.
Well, and here's the problem. We're 13 months since Boudreau said, boy, he's got to get better defensively, he's got to be a 35 goal. So, a full year or more has passed, and he's at best stationary, if not regressed. That's the tough part. And yet, I hear Frank Saravelli saying there's interest in him around the league, Rick. So
yeah, there was interest. Hold it a second. There was interest in Höglander last year.
Yeah.
I remember talking to his agent, and we had a clip from his agent in an article Thomas and I did that, he doesn't want to leave Vancouver, wants to stay in Vancouver. But look, at the end of the day, he's 22 years old. The Canucks don't have exactly overloaded with a ton of prospects. Be patient with the kid, and you know what? Maybe he becomes a player when he. And one thing I will tell you guys, I am hearing a lot of good things about Abbotsford this year, and Jeremy Colleton, the job he's doing. I'm hearing from a lot of people he's doing a good job. Also hearing the Sedin twins. Working with these kids on the ice has been a really big plus. When you look at Klimovich and when you look at his success in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and remember he was healthy scratched, and then Milstein had to call the Canucks what's going on. They came up with a plan to work more with the Sedin twins. They are doing the right things in Abbotsford. I'm going to tell you, that wasn't always the case. I'm going to tell you right now, when they're in Utica, I heard horror stories of how bad it was in terms of development for kids. Here, Sedin twins, Colleton's a good coach, and I'm hearing a lot of good things about Abbotsford, so I want to get that out of the way. I don't think
just turned 20. Just turned 20. I think there's some hope there. There's reason to still be hopeful for Klimovich, for sure.
Same thing. Okay, so Blake, it's the kid in minor hockey who scores 500 points. Why? He's great offensively. Doesn't really have to care about the defensive side of the game. Gets to junior, leads his team in scoring, doesn't have to care about the junior. And they get to the NHL, and that's where you get busted. All these guys, Höglander, Klimovich, all these kids, they get busted at the NHL level when
the
they're
guys
told
with
you got to
size
play.
Are particularly guilty of that, right? Because they can manhandle the lower tiers, and then they eventually reach the pros, and everybody's there.
Got to play.
Right?
Yeah, you got to play in all 3 zones or you're going to get in trouble. And that's what you're seeing with these kids. They're all gifted offensively. They all go high in the draft, but then they get those coaches. But I'll tell you about Don Hay in Vancouver. Like whether it was Gilbert Brulé or Milan Lucic, one thing about Don Hay, if you didn't check, probably good chance you didn't make his team. He did make sure every kid on the Giants. That's one thing about Don Hay that you always respect. You had to, if you wanted to play for a Don Hay team, you had to check and be defensive responsibly. A pretty good chance you weren't making that team. I'll tell you that much. Can I get the Aidan McDonough update?
Aidan McDonough, I was going to say, Northeastern forward, Canucks draft pick. He's got 5 regular season games with Northeastern coming off the bean pod, and then some postseason, we would think. You tell me, Rick, where are they at with this guy as we're approaching the deadline here?
I checked into Aidan McDonough this week, and I'll tell you why I checked into him. Harvard defenseman Henry Thrun told the Ducks a couple of days ago he's not going to sign with them. He's going to be a free agent this summer. So the Canucks are in the exact same boat with Northeastern forward Aidan McDonough, who, if he doesn't sign with the Canucks here in the coming weeks, he can become a free agent in the summer. Northeastern sources tell me that McDonough has not made up his mind yet. His decision hasn't been made up, and that the Canucks are still in the mix. Canucks GM Patrick Allvin met with McDonough in Boston. I believe it was January 7th, laid out his plan for the 2019 draft pick. Very positive meeting. I was told the McDonough camp impressed with Allvin in that meeting. So this decision is going to come down in late March or early April after the NCAA season. Canucks really want to sign this player. They tried really hard last year. I think they were a little disappointed it didn't sign last year. They tried hard to sign him last year. We'll see where this goes. Don't forget Jack Rathbone, if you guys can correct me, was in the same boat as McDonough. It's up to the kid. People ask me all the time, is McDonough going to sign? I tell everybody the same. The only guy that knows on this planet that McDonough's going to sign is McDonough. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The Canucks don't know, and his advisor doesn't know. But as of now, I can tell you that he's not made his mind up and that the Canucks are still in the mix.
Marvelous stuff, Ricky. We thank you for all of this today. Look forward to next Friday already. It'll be our last hit before the trade deadline.
Is it really? Next week is the last one before the deadline. Wow.
Yeah. Well, the deadline's in 2 weeks from today, right? So
deadline is 2 weeks today, guys. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks today. So think about that for a second, right? It's coming down the pike here pretty quick.
Yep. Lots got to happen here over the next couple of weeks. Until next Friday, Rick.
All right, gentlemen. Always a pleasure, especially with you, Matt.
See you, schmuck.
Adios, amigos.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Rick.